Let's get right into it. You think getting a speeding ticket is bad? Or that community service for some minor screw-up is the worst thing ever? That's because you're living in the 21st century. Go back a few hundred years, and your minor mistake wouldn't just get you a fine. It would get you publicly shamed, tortured, and paraded around like a circus animal. These weren't punishments for murderers or traitors. This was for stuff like gossiping, baking bad bread, or just being annoying in public. Number 9. The drunkard's cloak. So, you had a few too many drinks and made a scene. Today, you might get a public intoxication charge and a lecture. In the 1600s, you'd get to wear the drunkard's cloak. This wasn't some fashionable cape. It was a giant, heavy wooden barrel with a hole cut in the top for your head and 2 on the sides for your arms. They'd force you into this ridiculous thing and then make you walk through town. You couldn't sit, you couldn't run, you could barely walk without tripping. Imagine trying to navigate a cobblestone street while wearing an oak barrel. It was designed to be maximum humiliation. Kids would throw rotten vegetables at you, dogs would bark at you, and everyone would point and laugh at the guy who couldn't handle his ale. It was basically a walking billboard that screamed, "I am a loser who drank too much." Number 8. The Scold's Bridle. This one was reserved almost exclusively for women. What was their crime? Gossiping, nagging, or just speaking their mind a little too freely. They called it being a scold. The punishment was a horrifying metal mask called the Scold's Bridle. It was an iron cage that locked around your head. But the worst part was a small, sharpened piece of metal called the bridle bit that was forced into the woman's mouth, pressing down on her tongue. If she tried to speak, it would slice her tongue to pieces. She'd be led through town by a leash attached to the mask, unable to talk, bleeding from her mouth, all because her neighbor thought she was too chatty. It wasn't just about silence. It was about torture and control, all for the crime of having an opinion. Number 7. The pillory and stocks. You've probably seen these in movies. The pillory locks your head and hands, forcing you to stand, while the stocks lock your feet, forcing you to sit. These were the town's entertainment centers. The crimes that could land you here were laughably minor. Did you bake a loaf of bread? That was underweight. Pillory. Did you cheat at cards? Stocks. Did you lie a little too obviously? Pillory for hours, sometimes days. You'd be stuck there in the middle of the town square. But being stuck wasn't the real punishment. The real punishment was the public. People were encouraged to throw things at you. If you were lucky, it was just rotten fruit. If you were unlucky, it was rocks, dead animals, and buckets of human waste. People have died in the pillory, not from the device itself, but from being pelted to death by their angry neighbors over a game of dice. Number 6. The ducking stool. Here we go with another punishment, mostly for women. The crime was again being a scold, or just generally disorderly. The solution: the ducking stool. This was basically a wooden chair attached to a long plank, like a giant seesaw on the edge of a river or pond. They'd strap you into the chair, and then lower you into the freezing, filthy water until you were completely submerged. They'd pull you up, let you gasp for air, and then dunk you again, and again, and again. The number of dunks depended on how disorderly you were. This wasn't just humiliation. It was waterboarding. People regularly drowned during this punishment because the operator got a little too enthusiastic or simply forgot you were down there, all for the crime of being a little too loud. Number 5. Branding. Think of branding as a permanent criminal record, burnt directly into your skin. In the 17th and 18th centuries, if you were convicted of theft, they wouldn't just send you to jail. They'd take a red-hot iron and brand a letter onto your face, hand, or shoulder. A T for thief, an R for rogue or vagabond. It was a mark of shame you could never get rid of. Everyone, for the rest of your life, would know what you did. You couldn't get a good job. You couldn't be trusted. It was a life sentence of being an outcast, handed out for stealing something as small as a handkerchief. It was the state's way of saying, "We own your identity now." Number 4. The treadwheel. This sounds like a piece of gym equipment, but it was a Victorian-era instrument of pure misery. It was invented as a way to deal with prisoners serving sentences for minor crimes. It was a giant, long paddle wheel, like on a steamboat. Prisoners had to climb the steps on this wheel for hours on end, sometimes for up to 10 hours a day. The work was pointless. Sometimes the wheel ground grain, but often it did absolutely nothing. It was just endless, mind-numbing, exhausting. Climbing. It was designed to break your spirit. They called it grinding the wind. It was so soul-crushing and physically destructive that it was eventually banned for being too cruel. even for Victorian standards. Number 3. Wearing your crime before. They came up with branding. They had a simpler, but still deeply humiliating, method. You had to wear your crime. If you were caught swearing, you might have to wear a sign around your neck that said, "I am a foul-mouthed idiot." If you were caught cheating in business, you might have to walk through town wearing the faulty product, like a necklace of bat sausages. One of the most famous examples was the drunkard's cloak we talked about. But this applied to everything. It was a low-budget, high-shame punishment designed to make you the star of the local freak show for a day. Number 2. The Jugs. This is a Scottish classic. The Jugs was a simple iron collar with a chain, and that chain was attached to a post or a church wall. If you were found guilty of minor offenses like blasphemy, skipping church, or arguing with your neighbor, you'd be sentenced to the Jugs. They'd lock the iron collar around your neck and just leave you there for a few hours. You were completely exposed to the elements and to the scorn of everyone walking by. It was the medieval equivalent of being put in a timeout, except your timeout was in public. You were chained to a wall, and people could throw mud at you while they walked to Sunday service. Number 1. The finger pillory of all the pillories. This one is the most bizarrely specific. The regular pillory held your head and hands, but the finger pillory, it just held your fingers. This was often used inside churches for people who committed minor disruptions. If you were fidgeting, whispering, or even pointing during a sermon, an official could grab you and drag you to the finger pillory. It was a small wooden device with holes that would clamp down on your finger joints. It was painful, humiliating, and utterly ridiculous. Imagine being a grown adult, having your fingers locked in a wooden plank at the back of the church because you sneezed too loud. It proves that no matter the era, there's always someone in charge, willing to invent a new and incredibly petty way to punish you. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.